if you can just build the habit of doing that at the lower levels and getting that stuff done, like that's what helps you get to the next level, as opposed to hoping that, once you get there, you're going to build those habits.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Invincible Goalkeeping Podcast. Today, we have another professional goalkeeper, former professional goalkeeper, former 10-year pro. Back in 2015, he won the USL, where he was also goalkeeper of the year that year as well. He's now the founder and CEO of Prime Focus Goalkeeping. It's a brand dedicated to delivering high-quality gloves to young keepers, as well as high-quality goalkeeper apparel, and also providing high-level training here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. But he's also been a friend and a mentor of mine for some years now. But today on the podcast, we've got Brandon Miller.
Yeah, thanks. What an intro.
What an
intro. Appreciate the intro. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been a while. Great to see you. Glad you're doing well. Yeah, I'm excited to chat a little goalkeeping here.
Let's do it. Let's just dive straight into it. What first got you into goalkeeping? How did the journey begin?
Mainly I was athletic, but I hated running when I was younger, and so I was just like, I remember when I was younger, very few people wanted to get in goal. I got in goal. I was pretty good at it. I was decent, and it's like it helped me avoid running. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay here, and it happened to work out. Like I got better at it. Started to enjoy the different aspects of goalkeeping. Definitely a different position than field players. So that is what kind of drove me. I'm a different individual, I think. So being a goalkeeper, I think you got to be a little bit different.
Love that. So grew up here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. SCSA. Back in the day, no one knows what SCSA is anymore. But tell me about the journey from playing club soccer to going to college at UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting journey. Like I wouldn't say I was like highly rated in club soccer. Like I played at SCSA, obviously, what is now CSA. We were a good team. We weren't the best team in the state. We weren't the best team in the region. But we were a good team, and we had some good players that went to some good schools, but we weren't none of us were like highly rated. And so I always felt like I was the underdog in high school and constantly fighting for attention. And, obviously you want to get college coaches looking at you, and you want to go to the highest level tournaments and things like that. So it was, a constant battle for me of just trying to get notoriety, trying to get attention. And I went to UNC Wilmington. I chose UNC Wilmington because the head coach, Aiden Heaney, played in MLS, and he was an MLS goalkeeper. And so I felt like he was going to help me get to where I wanted to be, which is the professional level. And it was a good decision. I think the college recruitment process and the college decision process is difficult because you don't, you want to go to the highest level possible, but you also, you got to balance playing, you got to balance competition. It's not always in your hands. Like what other goalkeepers do they have at the program already? What's that look like? So my journey was a little bit tough in college because, the guy I was competing with was a freshman the year before I came in. He was a sophomore when I got to Wilmington, and he was a really good goalkeeper. He got a lot of attention and in the youth space. He was out of Texas, and he was a good goalkeeper. So my competition was stiff going into college, and I didn't play a ton my first few years, and I think that was difficult. As a goalkeeper in the youth soccer space, you're typically used to being that guy and playing all the time, and that transition from I'm not no longer the guy, transitioning from I was the guy to no longer being the guy, and trying to figure out how you fit into the team, into what do you bring to the team. Your self-worth as an athlete, as a human, is often tied to you performing on the field. And so now you're struggling off the field, on the field. It was a difficult journey, I would say.
And when you did start to play in college, was that guy still there? Did you beat him out, or did he graduate or transfer?
No, I never. I didn't. I wasn't the full-time starter until my senior year.
Oh, okay.
We competed freshman year. If I'm honest about it, I wasn't really ready freshman year. I went in kind of, not understanding the level, not understanding I can be a good shot stopper, but there's so much more to college game. soccer in general. So freshman year I wasn't really ready. Sophomore year I was ready. I competed really well. And I remember I just didn't get what I wanted. I thought I had gone in and from a physical aspect, from a technical, tactical, all the aspects of goalkeeping, like I felt like I was ready, prepared, and I competed really well. Had a great preseason, and you expect to hear your name called, come the first match day, and then you have the conversation with the coaching staff where they say, "Oh, we're gonna, alternate games, or you both are gonna play, and we'll make a decision later." Like that felt disappointing to me. And then you get in your own head. You have one bad game, or you don't win a game, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh well, I'm probably not going to win this battle anyway." So the mental aspect for me was probably the biggest thing sophomore year, because I didn't get what I expected I was going to get. I felt like I deserved. Um, and so, after that junior year, just I didn't have that will to compete as much anymore. I didn't feel like I was getting the fair shake, which I don't think was necessarily true. Just young kid not understanding competition and not understanding how to compete at that level. So yeah, I didn't become a full time starter in college till senior year, and again, looking back, it's like, could I have gone to another school, gotten 4 years as a starter somewhere, maybe a lower division, or a lesser known school. But hindsight's 2020. I had a great college experience.
For sure. Would you say, I think you make a good point, it's tough in the moment to kind of realize what you're going through, but do you feel like looking back, that competition brought, something good out of you?
Absolutely. I mean, I was having this conversation with someone the other day because we were talking about the transfer portal, and I was like, I remember after freshman year, I was thinking about transferring because I wasn't playing and I wanted to play. And then I remember just like sitting there, like, do I want to quit? Like I don't have guarantees anywhere else. Do I want to leave? Like Wilmington's a great place to live, go to school. I had friends. Like, do I want to leave that environment? Am I quitting because I can't compete? I'm afraid to compete. Like I think there's definitely challenges in it that help you as a human being, and so I think it definitely brought something out of me that I didn't necessarily have before, because I didn't have to compete at the youth level. Like we had other goalkeepers at times, but no one was better than me on my teams, and so I would always play most of the games, or the important games, and so this was just something that was new, and I think newness comes growth, and so that's why I stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because looking back on my college journey, I remember being so frustrated with my competition the whole time I was there. And then now it's like a lot of the qualities I have as a goalkeeper now, I attribute to picking up from some of the keepers I competed with in college. So, but it's like you said, it's really tough in the moment, especially when you're so young. And
Yeah,
just having that perspective can be really tough in the moment.
I think you got to look at every situation and see what you can take out of it, and it's very hard to do when
Mm.
you're, I've been the first string, I've been the second string, I've been the third string, I've been every single situation as a goalkeeper, and it's hard to in the moment. But like I look back at a lot of the teammates that I had, whether it's in college, whether it's in the professional space, I'm like, I feel like I took something from every one of them. Maybe not at that time in that season, but looking back, like, oh yeah, they were important in this aspect, and like how they were as a teammate, like how it can help me turn or figure out how I want to be as a human, as a teammate, as a partner, as a dad, like all those things.
I love that. I remember you told me this quote like back when I was in college. I think I was frustrated with my classes I was taking, and you told me take anything from everything. So it's like, what could you take from that one college course that maybe as a whole it has nothing to do with your major or what you want to do in your career, but it was like you can take one thing from that and apply it to your life, apply it to your career. So thank you
Yeah,
for
I
that
mean,
quote.
it's all about perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
life is so much about perspective, and I think that's one thing I look back on my career. I wish I would have had this mentality. Everyone says this, but I wish I would have had that mentality 10 years ago. And things could have been different in terms of taking perspective from situations. I was a third string in like 2014, and that was difficult for me. And I think I took a lot out of that situation, but I was also extremely frustrated in that situation. So I think there could have been more benefit from it, but there also was a ton of benefit from it. So you can't exactly, you know, expect you can have high expectations for yourself, but you also have to be kind with yourself and understand like difficult situations are going to, have different reactions.
For sure. So played senior year. Tell me about the transition to the pro game, how that played out for you.
That's one of the things that I look back and I wish I would have done differently. Um, I we lost our senior year was terrible. We were really bad, and so at that point, I wasn't expecting. I didn't really have high expectations for playing professionally. I didn't play my first 3 years. My senior year was pretty bad. Somehow ended up getting like first team All CAA. No clue how I did that because I was statistically in in every aspect I wasn't the best goalkeeper that year, but not sure what happened. But again, it was the reason why I went to UNCW was because of Aiden Heaney. Well, Aiden Heaney then got me connected with a coach up in Rochester. It was his first year. He knew him and he vouched for me, and I ended up getting the contract up there and um, transitioned into the professional environment. So I wish I would have. At the time I didn't really have a ton of options. The MLS draft wasn't really something. I wasn't really getting any sniffs there. I didn't get invited to the combine. I didn't think I was going to get drafted. So didn't really want to take that risk. Didn't really have a ton of options. Didn't want to go to combines and things like that. So I took the first thing that was offered to me. And again, 10 years in, I had a 10-year career, did pretty well in my career. So I can't really look back and say, man, I should have done things differently. But I think I could have taken more risk there and like maybe gone to some trials, maybe try to sneak into an MLS preseason and see what opportunities I could have. Um, but yeah, signed the contract, went up to Rochester, and started my career.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting how, I mean, just at least in my journey, I didn't really know what I was doing going pro. And I think that it's kind of similar for a lot of guys going from college. You think that just because you had a really good college career, like you're just going to walk into the pros, but it's a whole different world.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had the same in terms of like the actual level of play. I remember going from youth soccer to college soccer. I remember my first day of practice at UNCW, and I was like, "Man, this is easy." Like because I remember we did fitness, and then we went into like shooting drills, and like I was athletic, I could make saves, and I remember after that shooting drill, I was like, "This is easy." And then the rest of it comes. You start doing goalkeeper specific training. You start doing small sided games. You start seeing how not good you are with your feet, dealing with crosses in traffic. I remember that was one thing for me. I was like 160 pounds, 6 feet, 160 pounds going into college. Like going in through traffic was difficult for me. Dealing with crosses was difficult, even being athletic. So like the extra things, I started to realize I was like, oh man, there's a lot more I've got to learn. And so it's the same thing going into the pro level. I come out of college, not as confident as probably should be. Didn't have a great senior year, but still got to the first day of practice. Again, we're doing some shooting drills, and I remember there were some guys that I knew, like some I won't say big names, but guys that had decent careers, and I'm making saves and shooting drills and talking a little trash, and like it's like this is pretty easy. And then it's the rest of it, right? It's the grind of a at the time like 6 7 month season that I've never really dealt with before because college is 4 months max, and doing it every single day, and this is your job. It's not I don't have to go to class. Like how do you take advantage of the off time to take care of your body and things like that? Like those are all things that I don't think I picked up on as well. My rookie season, I feel like I picked it up on it later in my career, but definitely like the transition felt easy in the beginning, and then you get into like the grind of it, and it's a lot more difficult than you think.
Yeah. Kind of going off that, what would you say was the biggest surprise you had going from college to pro?
It's really just that, like no, other than like you've got a strength and conditioning coach, obviously you got the coaching staff that plans training sessions, but no one is there to like fully focus on you being the best player that you're going to be. Like if you want to be a better player, you have to put in the extra work yourself. Like if you want to be a better goalkeeper, maybe it's coming out 15 minutes early and working on some things, whether it's with the goalkeeper coach, with the other goalkeepers, maybe pulling a player, maybe after training staying 15 20 minutes working on distribution, working on some crossing things, taking shooting from players. Like that was one thing I hated doing in my career, and I wish I would have done a little bit more. It's like I'd never really liked doing extra shooting after training, but I do think there was benefit to it. And later in my career, I started doing things like working 10 to 15 minutes on just distribution, just pinging a ball out to my outside back, hitting targets. Stuff like that really helped me later in my career, but it's stuff I didn't really pick up on at the beginning of my career. I used to like go to training. My first year, I would go to training, get there when I was supposed to, wouldn't get there early, and then do training, and I'm off the field pretty quickly, and I'm home to watch Netflix, play Xbox, whatever it was. I literally would sit in my apartment from like 12 o'clock till 8 p.m. just like doing nothing. So it's like, how do we take better advantage of that time? Because I was in the USL. That wasn't the highest level. It wasn't the highest level I wanted to go to. So I didn't have the mentality of like, how do I transition? How do I put in the work that's necessary to get to the next level? I remember a lot of my focus, and I still talk about this a lot to this day, is like, when I get to that level, I'm going to work so hard. When I get to that level, I'm going to utilize the resources that they have, the gym that they have at the training ground, and the recovery and all that stuff. When I get to that level, I'm going to do that. And then like the mindset's got to be like, in order to get to that level, I have to do that stuff consistently and build those habits. And I just didn't have that when I was younger.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point. One of the I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy on the podcast was talking about an excerpt from a book. It's called The Science of Getting Rich, kind of like philosophical book, but basically he was talking about no man advances from his current situation until he's too big for his situation right now. So basically that idea of just like maxing out all the resources that you have. But no, I think that's a great point, and something that a lot of young keepers, they think, once I get the really nice weight room, I'll be in the weight room. Once I get, but it's like you have to make the most of what you have right now before, and like you said, building the habit of it. Because if you don't have the habit, you're going to get to that level, if you do, and most likely keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in Rochester that year, like we had one of the nicer setups. We had a locker room, a nice sized locker room. We had a training room, but our gym was, we were partnered with a gym that was like 15 minutes away, and it's like making excuses. Oh, I don't really want to drive 15 minutes. I don't really want to do all that. If it was all in one place, I would do this. Versus like, there's no reason you can't just build a consistent schedule to get to the gym, to get to the recovery place. Like, and I think that's the struggle for a lot of athletes at the lower levels, where like, at MLS, everything's in one place. It's easy to walk into the training facility, and now you've got the cold tub, you've got the weights, you've got everything that you need. And like, if you can just build the habit of doing that at the lower levels, and getting that stuff done, like, that's what helps you get to the next level, as opposed to hoping that, once you get there, you're going to build those habits.
Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes from the Bible, it says, "He who is faithful with little is faithful with a lot." So I think, like we just kind of touched upon, in order to get to that next level, you have to make the most of where you're at right now. But no, so it's crazy to hear what the college journey looked like, early professional. But like we talked about back in 2015, goalkeeper of the year, team wins the league. What do you feel like made that year so special, both for the team and for yourself?
I think it was a lot of underrated guys, to be honest. Like, the year before, 2014, I was third string. And so my first 2 years, 2012, 2013, I was the backup. First year I think I played like 2 games. Second year I played maybe 4 or 5 games. So I was gaining momentum. I was doing well in training. I was performing well. And then we got a new coach. I was out of contract, and I actually had shoulder surgery that 2013 off season. So I was injured, new coach, no contract. So didn't have a ton of options. And so I went back to Rochester and basically had to go into preseason, no contract, and earn my spot. And so, I think about my career. I've worked with a lot of really good goalkeepers that have done really well. And then one of those goalkeepers that year was John McCarthy. And, he was a rookie that year, and then we got a goalkeeper from the Revs on loan, and so I was a number three, firmly a number three, wasn't getting any playing time, and so I felt like I was doing well in training. Like, I'm not saying I was outplaying these guys every single session, but there was not a huge gap. And my teammates acknowledged that, my coaching staff acknowledged that, and that was difficult. And so like I felt like I was undervalued, I felt like I was underrated, and I remember after that season, I was trying to leave Rochester because I didn't know what the situation looked like. And so I ended up coming back to 2015, was supposed to be the backup that year. They brought in a guy from overseas, and circumstances just he came in towards the end of preseason and didn't have his visa stuff. He wasn't cleared to play yet, so I ended up starting the season. First game of the season, saved a penalty, got the 1-0 shutout, did well, played the second game, same thing. He finally got all his visa stuff, but at that point, I was playing well, team was playing well. But again, it was a lot of underrated guys. You had a lot of guys who had either been in MLS before, but maybe didn't get the fair shake they wanted or didn't perform, and so like they're trying to prove themselves. We had some hidden gems, Anwar Abbasi. Like we had some good talent that was just like I felt like was just underrated, and so we all kind of band together and put together a really quality season. I think I give our coaching staff the kudos as well. Like we had a good staff that pushed us and held us to really high standards, and I think we held each other to high standards, and worked out to be a really great season.
No, that's awesome. Something you've talked about a lot so far through college and professionally, kind of this idea of being an underdog. What do you feel like? Do you feel like that was an important part of you having the success that you did have, of kind of feeling that someone's always after your spot, or you might not be as good as people think? Do you think that like drove you to have the success that you did have?
Yeah, but I think there's a balance. Like I definitely I wore the number 33 for a specific reason. I was a third string goalkeeper my third year in the league, and I used that as motivation. Like I use my literal number every single time I put my jersey on, like reminding myself like where I was, and then where I'm at now and like, where I want to be. But I think it also there were some mental struggles with that throughout the rest of my career, right? So at 2015, I did well, and then everyone from there, I was pretty much a starter the rest of my career. And I think that while I had the confidence. And like that underdog mentality, I do think I never really switched that mentality to like I am the starter, I am the guy, like building that confidence. And I think that kind of and I think all goalkeepers can kind of attest to this at some point, where you're like maybe you're the starter and you're just not playing well, you're not as confident, and the backup's doing well in training, and so now you've got that mental struggle of like, why am I the starter? Should I be the starter? Do my teammates think I should be the starter? Like all of that stuff. And so I think the underdog mentality definitely helped me. I just think that I needed a mentality shift that was really tough for me, because I did always feel like someone was after me. Like I never really felt secure in my position, even after one goalkeeper of the year. Even like 2020, I was second team all league and a finalist for goalkeeper of the year. I never really felt comfortable as like a legitimate starter, the guy. And I think that was more so me and my lack of a mentality shift, and not focusing on the mental aspect of the game as much, and building that confidence in myself.
Would you say it's important to kind of make that mindset shift of like that underdog mentality? Maybe it's not like the most sustainable, like maybe it's good for periods of your career, but
Yeah,
making that shift of like, okay, like now this is my job, like I deserve this, as opposed to
yeah,
just always not feeling good enough.
absolutely. And I think it's tough, because it's like you don't ever want to get to a position where you're not doing the extra work and seeing yourself as someone who can improve. And that's, so I'm not saying that like in terms of shifting out of the underdog mentality. I'm saying it's got to be a shift towards like I am that guy. I can like I deserve to be here. People are competing with me, but I'm like at some point you're just competing with yourself and trying to get better as a goalkeeper. And that was something like I think in that 2020 season, that's where I kind of shifted to a little bit. And like I very much feel like my career was up and down in terms of like I have one great year and then a subpar year, a good year, subpar year, and so like it kept going up and down. But like in the ups, like the mentality a lot of times was like I just want to compete with myself. I just want to get better, and my best is better than who I'm competing with, and so that's what I should focus on. So like in 2020 was like where I had that biggest shift of like I literally just want to focus on myself and improving, and see where the chips fall, and it turned out really well.
I love that. I love that. Shifting gears, we talked about owner of Prime Focus Goalkeeping, launched back in 2016. What was the the want to start something like this?
I've always wanted to own my own business. I've always wanted to do something like that. And I was just out in California. My teammate at the time, Josh Cohen, he was looking at doing his own brand. I think he might have started his own brand for a little bit. I don't remember. And I was just asking him about it, like, how was he getting manufacturers? What was he doing? So I started looking into it myself. At the time, I was working with West Coast, and they took good care of me. Good glove brand. But I remember I was thinking, when I had originally signed with West Coast, I was like, this is the next step. Like, they're going to market me, they're going to help me get to the next level, and that just didn't happen. And it wasn't, no blame on them, but they've got. I mean, at this point, they've got hundreds of goalkeepers. At that point, they probably had like 40 or 50 goalkeepers, and most of them were MLS goalkeepers. So, they're marketing them more so than they're marketing me. So, how, instead of being one of 50, how can I be one of one? And so that was part of my shift, was like, how do I own my own brand, own my own content, market myself, and build something there. And so, I went into it, didn't have a ton of experience, didn't have a ton of knowledge, learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. But here we are today, still rocking.
Yeah, it kind of touches upon the idea you were talking about with training of like taking ownership of not just your on the field career, but off the field career too. You gotta, as a you gotta take that ownership.
Yeah, I think especially as a lower league athlete, like, obviously don't make as much money, but you still have the opportunity to do things, and that's what my mindset was starting Prime Focus. One, it helped me make a little bit of extra money, but also helped me build my brand. It helped me learn things, because, like, thinking about that transition of, like, at some point I'm going to stop playing soccer. And so how do I put myself in a position where, whether it's from a marketing perspective, I have marketing experience, I have operations experience, I have a ton of different experience from running my own brand, and the teachings that I got there. And so whether it's me continuing to run the brand, which I've chosen to do, or whether I wanted to step into the corporate space, I felt like I was building a resume that would help me off the field to easily transition.
Absolutely. Within Prime Focus, you've worked a lot with young keepers. What would you say are some of the biggest things that young keepers struggle with, maybe uh, physically and mentally?
Um, Man, that's a large question. I could go in any number of directions. The biggest thing I focus on with my goalkeepers it's the habits. I want goalkeepers to build habits. Like, I think social media has made it, there's been some positives and some negatives to social media with goalkeeping. And I think that a lot of times on social media, you don't get the real picture of like, how people actually get to where they are, and, like, you see the end result. You don't see everything that's underneath it. And so I try to, when working with youth goalkeepers, I want to build their habits from, like, day one, whether you're 8 years old, whether they're 18 years old. Um, and it's something I'm still myself at 35 years old, having been coaching for a decade now. I still have to improve on, my approach to, the differences in working with you versus working with an 8-year old, and my expectations, and how to build, um, you know enjoyment, as well as the habits that they need. So I think, the biggest focus I have with youth goalkeepers is, how do we build good training habits, whether it's reactions to mistakes, whether it's technique things that you need to do consistently to build the confidence. Like, I think a lot of that it's not necessarily focused on enough with young goalkeepers. And I think if you can build it young, then, when they start at 10, 11 years old, if they when they turn 18, like, they've got a good foundation. So, that, and I mean, from a physical perspective, a lot of it is just technique stuff that, like, I was working with a college goalkeeper today that, still struggles with the technique of kicking a ball. So those are things that, at a younger age, instead of flying to the top corner, jumping over things, doing all these things that seem really fun, and are really fun, but aren't necessarily the things that you're going to see consistently throughout a game. Like, top corner saves maybe happen once every 3 games, versus you're going to kick a ball every single game. You're most likely going to catch a ball every single game. All right, probably deal with a cross. Like, there are other things to focus on, and those are the main things I think goalkeepers should be focusing on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the kids I've coached in some of our initial sessions, they're like, "Oh, let's go! Like, I want to do some big dives." It's like, dude, you can't even catch a ball yet. Like,
Yeah,
you can't even get your feet set.
yeah, like that. I think that's the struggle with kids and with parents, and that's some of the struggle with social media is like you see all the high flying stuff, you see the highlights, but you don't see the goalkeepers working on their footwork that leads into that big save. And you don't see the other boring saves that they make that are the majority of the saves that they make that are why they're so good and why they do it, how they do it cleanly, consistently, and why they're at that level. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of education around goalkeeping that for parents, for coaches, for kids.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about a lot, just kind of the importance of a strong mentality as a goalkeeper. How do you work with your kids on building a strong mindset?
I mean, most of it's through training. It's through trial and error. It's through repetition. It's, how do you respond to mistakes in training? But the biggest thing I work on with my goalkeepers is how do you analyze your own game? I think that is, um, the inner monologue is the biggest thing for goalkeepers and for athletes in general. Is like if you know how to, one, analyze your game, and two, how to talk to yourself throughout a game, it's going to help you perform. And so, in training, I'm big on like how do you react to things. And I think that's going to build your habits for what you do in games. But it's shifting the mindset as well. I think of how you see things, how you see a mistake, and it's not so much like, oh, I made a mistake. It's, what happened and what can I do next time to improve that. And I force, and this is the one thing that a lot of goalkeepers does. Sometimes, I work with goalkeepers and I never see them again, because I think a lot of them don't like that I push them. I push them to think. I'm going to push my goalkeepers to analyze their own game and figure out, because I work with them maybe once a week. You're not training once a week. You're training 4 or 5 times a week. So how are you in that other environment analyzing your game and figuring out how you're making or what mistakes you're making and how to fix that? And so, that's the biggest thing for me is starting to understand that, read the game, and shift your mindset of, oh, it's not, oh, my head's down because I made a mistake. It's, all right, I made a mistake. How do I fix it next time? What are the little technical, tactical, whatever it is that I need to fix to improve on the next rep?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been a big theme of our conversation is just like being your own coach, taking ownership. Like kids I've trained, I've had to tell them, like kids I coached back in Houston, it's like, I'm not going to be in Houston forever. And it's like, how can you analyze, like you said, your own training, your own games, and be your own kind of coach? Because like you said, there's not going to be someone with you 24/7 to hold your hand and tell you all the things you need to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's athletics is a mirror for life as well. Like, how do you take ownership of your life? How do you take ownership of your career? If you want to go somewhere, like I tell players all the time, everyone's like, I want to go pro. I want to play pro. All right, if you want to play pro, you can play pro somewhere. Like, there's fifth division in Serbia that's professional. Like, if you want to play pro, you can play pro somewhere. If you want to take ownership of that and figure out how to get there, you can do that. But you have to take ownership of it. You have to set your plan in place and be willing to consistently execute. And I think that's you know wanting to do something versus actually doing it are two very different things.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great. Just a couple questions to wrap up. What would be the single biggest piece of advice you would give to a young, hungry goalkeeper? One in high school, early college, wants to play professionally, wants to be a goalkeeper of the year in a professional league. What would be the biggest piece of advice you would give that young, hungry goalkeeper?
Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. That's literally at 35 what I'm doing now, and what I wish I would have done at 17, 18, 20, 21. Like, I wish I would have bet on myself a little bit more. Like, I looked throughout my career, my USL career, I was very safe with everything I did. I took the easy path a lot of times. And if you have goals, you have dreams, you want to get somewhere, put a plan in place and gamble on yourself. I think it's going to work out more times than not.
Mm. And would you say, just in life in general, it's kind of good. Like when you're young, like you can bounce back from mistakes, right? You have less responsibility and stuff like that. Like, why not go out and go for your dream, at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I wish I would have gone to Europe and just taken a chance and maybe go on trial somewhere. And if doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, there's opportunities all over the place. You kind of just got to find them. but yeah, I mean, I'm 35 years old. I got a kid, and I'm now taking some of the biggest risks I have ever in my life, and I'm doing that one because I believe in myself. I feel confident in my abilities, but also, I didn't take those risks earlier in life, and I don't think I achieved as much as I wanted to.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Bet on yourself, believe in yourself. Uh, Last question. What is your favorite thing about goalkeeping?
Um, I honestly just enjoy the competition both with other goalkeepers, but also the competition between the goalkeepers union and the field players. Like I enjoy being that last line. I enjoy being like not the savior, but like you know I guess the savior in terms of like one-on-one situation. I'm the last line. If I don't make the save, then I enjoy that pressure. And I think that ties into like being an entrepreneur and ownership and everything. Uh, like you build a business, the pressure's on you. Whether you have a staff of one or staff of 100, like the pressure's on you to make decisions, to make the money, to make sure that things are running smoothly. And I think I enjoy that pressure. I enjoyed it in my career. It was stressful at times, but also I think the positives outweigh the negatives.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of goalkeepers I've talked to, it's kind of that same feeling of like that adrenaline rush of knowing that you can be the one to really influence the game is,
Yeah.
I think, something we all love about goalkeeping. But yeah, no, that's all I've got. Brandon, where can they find you on social media? Follow the brand, maybe get
Uh,
some training here in the Charlotte
yeah,
area.
so www.primefocusgoalkeeping.com. We're on all social media, Prime Focus GK, and TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I've got my personal stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brandon Miller. I've got a website, brandonmiller.site, where I do a lot of stuff as well. So yeah, I'm out there. You can DM me. I get plenty of people on TikTok that reach out via DM, Instagram reach out via DM. I've had a ton of great conversations with people, all over the country who just want advice on goalkeeping, analysis, just have a good conversation. So I'm always open to that. So yeah, just search me up on social media and reach out.
Awesome. Well, like I said, that's all I've got. I'd like to thank Brandon for his time. Reach out to him, get connected. But if you got any value, like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah.